To the surprise of exactly no one, President Obama's immigration reform plan is now tied up in the courts. Last night, a federal judge in South Texas blocked the president's executive action on immigration. The president's plan would have prevented as many as 5 million illegal immigrants from being deported. Republicans say the president abused his power. The president says he took executive action because Congress refused to move on any kind of immigration reform. Texas and 25 other conservative states are suing to permanently stop the president's order. The injunction gives them time to prepare their lawsuit. And Mark Lee is in. He's a longtime immigration attorney in Dallas. We invited him in to talk about the court ruling and what specifically it might mean. So the judge said allowing the executive order to play out, and by granting the injunction, he did so because it would let the genie out of the bottle. That's a common term. I don't know what it means specifically. In this case, I think you do, so tell me what he meant by that.
Well, what the judge meant by the issuing of the preliminary injunction, the temporary injunction, is what he wants to do is preserve the status quo until the merits of the case, the winner or the loser, can be decided. And it's not surprising that the plaintiffs would seek a temporary injunction in a case like this. It's not surprising that this particular judge would grant one, but we think that it's a procedural.
Yeah, let's go into that. It's not this judge didn't say the president violated the Constitution, and so that's why I'm granting this injunction. It was a really small procedural kind of, you didn't file this paper on this time in advance, or something basically like that, right?
When you read the injunction, it was fairly limited, and the crux of it was that he felt that instead of executive action directly from the president, that the rulemaking process should have been gone through by the agency, by the federal agency, which requires publication in the Federal Register, notice and comment, and then publication of a final rule.
Okay, so how do you see this playing out in the short term? What's going to happen? Do we just go, I mean, it's exactly how it's been treated now. I can't imagine if the president and the federal government want this to happen, they're going to suddenly start souping it up at the border and arresting illegal immigrants. What do you foresee happening over the next, I don't know, 3 months?
I don't think the suit involves a change in enforcement at all. The deferred action program that the president initiated is the target of the lawsuit, and the judge could, after further hearing and evidence, could decide to lift the injunction himself. Probably won't. It could go to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, and I think that's where it will go, and I think it will go in a pretty rapid fashion. And the Fifth Circuit will decide whether to issue a stay, which puts an end to the injunction.
Talk about the Fifth Circuit. New Orleans, that's also conservative. It has issued conservative rulings. What might happen there?
One of two things.
You can predict. I mean, you don't have a crystal ball, but go ahead.
One of two things. They could issue a stay, which would lift the protective order. They could also
a stay of the injunction, which would go back to the details of the executive order, which was supposed to start today.
Exactly.
Right.
Or they could sustain it, in which case we feel like the case will be appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will make that decision.
What in your job, how might this affect you? You take the politics out of it. Is it better to have an executive order, or would you rather see Congress do something and then it be played out that way?
Practitioners like myself would have liked to have a law passed as was proposed in the middle of 2013. A bipartisan group of senators put together a common sense immigration reform package. Unfortunately, the House didn't act on it, nor did they propose anything in lieu of it. So nothing has happened, and the president's decided to move forward with executive action. We can live with that just as well. He's put out some fairly clear parameters as to who would qualify and who wouldn't qualify for what really boils down to prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah. One last question. Timing on this, how long might it take to kind of resolve itself and we might know what's going to happen next?
It's going to be months.
Oh,
it's
really?
going to be months, and it could be quite a while.
Okay, so the funding of the Homeland Security Department and Congress trying to take it out that way will probably continue to play out too.
Exactly.
Yeah, political side, judicial side, they're both going at it right now. Okay, Mark Lee, thank you for coming. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Steve.